What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I just want to take a second to thank you to all the new subscribers that have joined one of my old videos, the little compilation of the silver CRX that I built. It actually kind of blew up a little bit, and I've got 10,000 subscribers now, so I just really want to say thanks to everyone that is joining the channel, and I hope that you're enjoying the videos that I'm putting out. Today's video, I'm actually going to jump back over to the black CRX. I'm really going to try to focus on getting this hood sanded down and re-cleared, as well as the sunroof panel that I've got a replacement for. I've already painted these. I've actually run out of the original paint that I used on that car, so I really can't repaint them, so I need to be careful about sanding these things down and make sure I don't get past the clear into the base coat, because I don't have any more paint to paint them with, and I really don't want to deal with trying to color match it, because this metallic is kind of tricky to match. So that's what I want to get into here in a minute. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and jump over here to this max speeding rod generator and give it a test and see how it performs before we get into the hood and start sanding on it. Alright, before we start this thing up, we definitely want to make sure it's got oil in it. I think these things come without oil in it for shipping purposes. So there's an access panel right here we want to open up and add our oil. Space heater. I think it takes about 1500 watt heater. Let's go ahead and plug it in. We're going to turn it on low setting and see how this thing responds. I'm going to turn it up to number 2 now. Alright, the real test, adding a heat gun to it as well. So the heat gun shows an overload, so we're drawing too much. That's quite a bit of load. Well, I have to say this did perform very well. It's a very quiet generator. I've never actually owned a portable generator before, so I can see where this would come in very handy camping or anywhere else that you need 120 volt power. That heater pulls quite a bit of power, so with that and the heat gun on there, it was right at the limit of this thing. But I think that's plenty for camping or charging your phone, or even running a heater out in the cold if you needed to do so. So definitely go check Max Speeding Rod's generator out. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below, and we appreciate Max Speeding Rods for supporting this channel. So let's go ahead and get to the CRX. Alright, so what I'm going to use is 1000 grit sandpaper. I'm going to wet sand this with water and a little bit of soap. I'm going to use a small flexible foam pad to get it sanded down. Hopefully I won't burn through the clear coat, so let's see how this goes. Alright, with it dried off, you can see some more of the pits. They're a little bit more visible. And you can see that I'm taking it slow. I'm really just scratching the surface. I don't want to get too deep. I do want to get rid of all these shiny areas and any of these areas where I use the razor blade that are a little uneven. I want to try to flatten those out a little bit more before I lay the clear coat on. So I'm just going to keep going, sanding it down, drying it off, checking it out, and then just repeating that process until I get the whole hood looking more like this area right here. Just kind of a matte finish without going too deep. So let's keep moving. Alright, as you can tell, I'm getting a lot closer to being done with this, but when you're wet sanding, it's really difficult to see where you've sanded, so you gotta really be careful and go slow because that water kind of fills in the cracks and makes it look like it's still shiny, but you could actually sand through the clear if you're not careful. So you can see over here where I just did the first pass, there's a lot of shiny areas still. I don't want to go too aggressive with it because I don't want to cut through that clear coat. So on this side over here, you can see it's mostly all a matte finish and real smooth overall. So this is almost ready. I'll probably take a scuff pad and hit some of these corners here. That way I don't actually sand through the edge because it's really easy to sand through these raised edges here. So I've got a little bit more to do here on the front as well. I haven't touched it yet because it's such a small area and I want to be careful down here. And then I'm going to do my second coat over here, or second pass I'd say, but we'll get this done and then we're going to move over to the sunroof and do the same thing. I'll probably skip through that because it's going to be exactly the same thing, just a bunch of sanding, and then we're going to get this thing set up for clear coat. Alright, as you saw, I just pulled the CRX out of the garage, and the reason I did that is so I can go ahead and prep the garage for paint. And that means, to me, I'm going to sweep this out, I'm going to take the leaf blower and blow all this dust out of here, and I'm also going to wet the floor down, but not before I put up a plastic partition. I'm going to try to partition some of this stuff off, probably this shelf over here, because there's a lot of dust. A lot of things that collect dust over here, and that dust will end up in your clear coat if there's any air movement over here lifting it off. I'm going to blow off a lot of these surfaces in here, try to knock some of that dust out of here, and just keep it from getting in the clear coat. I'm also going to lower the garage door down, but not all the way, just enough room for these box fans over here. I've got 2 or 3, I know I've got more than that, so I'm going to round them up and I'm going to throw them in the door over here, cover half of it with filters, half of it with the fans blowing out. That way I have some air circulation pulling that overspray out of here. So let's go ahead and get this started and see how quickly we can get this thing put in clear coat. Alright, as you can see here, we've got nothing high end. It's all kind of budget minded stuff. This is going to be Harbor Freight brand. Paint strainers, Harbor Freight, the Spectrum HTE compliant paint gun. It's got the 1.3 tip. This is the Nason Select Clear 46500, just a high solids clear, not too expensive. So the next step really, since I've got it all partitioned off, is going to be just to wet the floor down and then get the clear coat mixed up, put in the gun, go ahead and set my air pressure. It's going to be about 26 psi is what I'm looking for. And then we should be able to tack rag everything and lay the clear down, and hopefully the dust isn't a problem here. Once I get my fans turned on, I'm going to let it air out here a little bit. I've got the air filters to help keep any of the outside dust at bay, and then we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright, this Nason clear is actually a 2-to-1 clear, which means we're going to put 2 parts clear coat and then 1 part activator in here. Alright, I went ahead and put 3 coats of clear on here. I was really only going to do 2, but then I noticed there were some divots in there, some of those fish eyes almost, where I needed to drop a drop of clear coat to fill it in. And so I went ahead and did that, let it set up a little bit, and then I did a 3rd coat as well. You can see some of those bumps on here of clear coat. Those will sand down flat, and then I'll be able to buff it out. I'm just hoping that as this thing cures overnight, that it doesn't create a lot more of those fish eyes, because that's what happened last time. Overnight, I came back out and it really didn't look nearly as good, especially after I started sanding and buffing. So I'm going to let this set up probably 1 or 2 days before I start really sanding it down. It's a little cooler out now. I've got the garage heater on. It's on 81 right now, but I've also got this fan going, so there's a lot of cold air circulating in here. So it's going to take a little bit longer for these to set up. You can hear my feet still sticking to the floor in here. But the sunroof turned out really well. There's still a couple of those little bumps where I had dropped a couple of drops of clear as well. So I'll have to sand that flat and buff it out as well. But overall, it's really smooth. It's not nearly as rough as it was like with the orange peel. So I'm going to wrap it up here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up. These set over there on the other side of the garage, and get the cars pulled in after some of this clear coat overspray clears out of here. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you'll stick around for the next episode where we get these buffed out and actually put on the car. So we'll see you then.